So in a previous video, I talked about the cell theory and some exceptions to the cell theory, but let's put that aside. And today I'd like to talk about so-called the functions of life or the characteristics of life. I don't even know where here they are. I've got a whole bunch of little sheets here, pieces of paper here that I would like to place on this table here. And today I need to reach over the back here because I've got a few more pictures that I'd like to show you today. Yeah, so that's basically the characteristics of life or the functions of life. That is kind of today's video. And I'd like to compare two single-celled organisms, so-called unicellular organisms. An important term you need to know, U-N-I. Unicellular means single-celled. One of them is called Paramecium, the other one is called Chlamydomonas. And they, even though they are single-celled, they share different lifestyles, but actually they don't. Well, they have a whole bunch of similarities that I'd like to talk about. And because you have, I don't know if you've ever seen them before, just want to show you a couple of pictures here. This here is a picture I made some time ago of Paramecium. It's a single-celled organism. Those dots that you see here, these are bacteria. You see they're also cells and they're much smaller. You can see that there are different cell organelles inside the paramecium. Over here, this is called the oral groove, where it actually sucks in the food and then eats it and digests it. It has little hair, the so-called cilia. They're moving and beating, and this is kind of allows it to swim through the water. Okay, so that's the paramecium. Okay, over here, this one is a drawing. This is Chlamydomonas. It's quite different, looks quite different, has those huge flagella. The green thing here, that's a chloroplast. It does photosynthesis. However, under the microscope, it looks a little different. Look, this is how it looks under the microscope. You might be able to see the flagella over here a little bit. But it has a chloroplast in here. It's an algae. So, and even though you might think that both of them look kind of different, there are a whole bunch of similarities that I'd like to talk about here. And not only that, strictly speaking, all living things share those functions of life. So there's actually, we could put humans in here as well. Yeah, and what are these functions? Those functions are nutrition, that's basically feeding, growth is growing, becoming bigger, response, so it kind of reacts to the environment. All living things excrete. Excretion is the production of metabolic waste. Living things produce waste. They have a metabolism. Metabolism are all the chemical reactions that happen in a cell. Homeostasis means you want to maintain constant conditions inside the cell and reproduction, okay? And they all do that, a little hair over here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to do a little bit of, I'm going to try to fill in the table here by putting these little pieces in here. And let's start off here at the very top. I'm going to move this over again here, nutrition, okay? So how does Paramecium feed? Well, oh gosh, what a mess. I have to find it here again. Yeah, here it is. Paramecium feeds by ingesting smaller organisms. Ingesting means it kind of eats it, okay? It sucks it up and it eats it. And that's what I already talked about here, the oral groove that you have here. It will suck it up and then it's digested inside. Okay, this is how Paramecium feeds, and it's a heterotroph. It means it has to feed on organic food, just like we humans, right? We also have to eat food. What about Chlamydomonas? How does it actually feed on itself? You remember over here, I told you that there's a chloroplast in here for photosynthesis. So it's able to make its own food by photosynthesis. So it uses carbon dioxide and sunlight and water, and it's able to make its own food by photosynthesis. So you already get the idea. All living things have to do nutrition and feeding, but how they do that, they do it differently. Okay. So in that respect, we humans are kind of more similar to Paramecium here. So what about growth? So the Paramecium will grow in size, and the Chlamydomonas will grow in size. Humans also grow in size. The question is now, where does the stuff come from? When we basically, humans, we all were once one cell, tiny, and now we're kind of big. Where does all of this stuff come from that I'm made of, Same over here, the Paramecium grows in size. Where does the material come from? Well, it actually comes from an accumulation of organic matter. What does this mean? Well, it builds up organic matter. What's that? Well, the food. Yeah, it eats the food, it digests the food, and the food then is not food anymore, but it becomes part of the cell. This is called assimilation. Assimilation is when you convert foreign substances to own substances. So same thing happens in humans. I eat food, I eat a sandwich, and it's digested and the nutrients are absorbed, and the cells make hair. Out comes hair. Sandwich goes in, hair comes out. Okay, it's growth. Yeah, so that's So and what about growth in Chlamydomonas? Where does it get its material from? Well, by the products of photosynthesis. Yeah, it makes its own food and organic material by photosynthesis, and that is then used to actually make cellular material. Yeah, so it also is able to grow, but it gets it from different. The sources are different. Yeah. What about response? Yeah, let's. I've got Chlamydomonas over here. It's able to move. Remember those little flagella over here? They're moving and beating, so it's able to move around in water. And it likes to move towards, no, not oxygen, it moves towards light. Okay, Chlamydomonas moves towards light, and Paramecium, I've given it away, already likes to move towards oxygen. So when you have a Paramecium in somewhere, okay, and there's a high oxygen concentration on the side, it moves towards the oxygen. Yeah. So usually you find them under the microscope around air bubbles. They like to be there because they need the oxygen. Yeah? So the next thing is, they basically are able to respond to the environment excretion. And here I've got a little problem because I don't have a sheet of paper. Does Paramecium produce waste? Yeah, sure. It produces a substance that we call carbon dioxide, CO2. That's a waste product. By the way, we humans do that as well. Okay, what about Chlamydomonas? It produces oxygen gas, O2. Yes, oxygen gas produced by Chlamydomonas is a waste product. Who would have guessed? I mean, we need the oxygen, of course, we inhale it. But for plants and for Chlamydomonas, it's a waste product. Yeah, the table does go on over here. I have to move it up a little bit here. Metabolism, homeostasis, and reproduction. And notice that the line kind of stops over here because metabolism is the term used to characterize all of the chemical reactions in a cell. All living things do that. So Paramecium has a metabolism, Chlamydomonas has a metabolism, all living things, including humans, of course, have a metabolism, and this metabolism is because of enzymes that are present, okay? So both of them produce enzymes that catalyze chemical reactions. So in other words, maybe that's one way of characterizing life, being a complicated chemical reaction. That's an interesting way of seeing it. But as a matter of fact, all living things have a metabolism. They have enzymes that do those chemical reactions, and catalysis or catalyze means to speed up chemical reactions. Now, what is homeostasis? Homeostasis is keeping of the internal conditions the same within limits. In other words, Paramecium has to make sure that there is not too much water in the cell. And what happens if there's too much water? Then the Paramecium is going to pop, open, and it's going to be dead. Yeah. So there are structures in there called a contractile vacuole, which pumps the water out simply to make sure that there's not too much water in here. Yeah. So there should not be too much water in here, and there should not be too little water in here. So everything has to be kept within certain limits, okay? And all living things have to do that. For example, in case of human beings, we have to control our body temperature. Our body temperature is not allowed to be too high, and it's not allowed to be too low. Yeah? It also has to be kept within limits. But different living things, they do different things. They have to keep different things between limits. Yeah. So that's also one characteristic, that all of them have the same. And how do they reproduce? Well, they're able to reproduce in a way that we humans are not able to reproduce. Paramecium and Chlamydomonas are able to divide. Then you have two, okay? So that is called asexual reproduction by mitosis. But they're also able to reproduce sexually by exchanging DNA. For example, Paramecium, it's called conjugation, something you don't need to know now. But what happens is that two Paramecia fuse together and they exchange DNA with each other. Yeah? So it's possible that they do sexual and asexual reproduction, but all living things have to reproduce. Okay, so this is basically a list of certain functions of life that are not only present in unicellular which is basically single-celled organisms, but in all organisms. And if you don't know how to spell unicellular, then I'm going to write it over here. Unicellular means single-celled, okay, means made of one cell. So Paramecium is made of one cell, and Chlamydomonas is made of one cell, but actually, this table refers to all living things. I was kind of wondering, why did they actually choose Paramecium and Chlamydomonas? Why didn't they choose humans and, I don't know, mosquitoes? Yeah, I don't know, humans here and mosquitoes over here. Yeah, mosquitoes feeding on blood, you know. And I think the reason why they've done that is because they kind of wanted to show that those functions of life apply to all living things, even single-celled organisms. So in that sense, humans and Paramecia and humans and Chlamydomonas on that level, on this level over here, we're very similar. Okay. We always want to, we humans are sometimes conditioned to always look for differences. How am I different from the Paramecium or so? No, let's look at it in a different way. How are all living things similar? And yeah, we're very similar because all living things do those functions of life. How they do that, of course, is different. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that now. I think it's a good idea if you kind of memorize this table a little bit. But I think what's also important is to know, of course, the different functions. I mean, sometimes some people call it the characteristics of life. Okay. Yeah. I think I'm going to leave it at that now, and I wish you all the best. No, I'm not finished yet. Okay, there is another thing I wanted to mention here that is my my mobile phone over here. Look at this. Oop, here, let's put the microphone away. It's my mobile phone, and it's an interesting device because, believe it or not, it is able to do a few of these things as well. You see, it is able to respond when I push a button. It is able to respond to it. Okay, it has chemical reactions going on in the battery. Yeah. I don't know if you would call it a metabolism over here, yeah, but there are chemical reactions going on as well. It is able to respond to environmental changes by pushing a button and so on. Yeah, well, it's not able to reproduce itself, but homeostasis, it's able to try to control the battery level and keep it within certain limits. And if the battery level drops too low, then it says you've got to charge it. So does this actually mean that my mobile phone is maybe a little bit alive because it shares some of those characteristics? Well, of course, we all understand mobile phones are not alive, okay? And sometimes some people even include movement in here. All living things move, you know? Obviously, we know that, but one thing that is characteristic for life is that the living things have all of those things and not just a few of them. My mobile phone is not able to reproduce on its own. Okay, so it's not able to grow. Yeah, so there are a few of them missing, and therefore, obviously, we know that our mobile phone cannot be alive. Okay, but now I think I'm finished. I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.